testing, all right. So we will just move quickly. Allow me just to use this screen. So to be able to introduce my topic on the state of cybersecurity, I'll just say when most of us were, okay, weka sauti kidogo, when most of us were at the university, the only computer security we knew was viruses and somebody just coming to illegally copy data from your machine or from your computer. And we will only talk of, then it was Norton. I don't know if Norton is still there, antivirus. Then came people like Kaspersky, and why Kaspersky becomes very popular then was when it was attacking the viruses. It will produce a very funny sound. Do you still remember? So you just hear, and it's like, okay, the virus has been killed. But things have evolved over. Now we are looking of a whole of government approach when to matters cyber. So the current administration, which we all serve, that is, which has what we call the bottom-up transformation agenda, as said, has put a lot of emphasis on matters of digital government services. Those days when you had to physically visit the government office. So you are looking for a driving license, you want to get married, you are looking for clearance from, okay, I hope this sound is okay, clearance from the AG's office and all that. So you have to physically visit these service, government offices for services. But now, from a humble 300 services that were available on eCitizen, we now have more than 17,668 services onboarded. And the advantage of this is these services are available either day or night. You don't need to confine yourself to the government working hours of 8 to 4. Kenya here, just almost more than 22 internet users with that penetration at 40%, or more than 40%. Very active in the social media. And these are just the bare minimums. We believe we are more than this, but these are the statistics that we have. Cellular mobile connections at almost 68 million, more than the... Okay. More than 2 mobile phones. So most Kenyans are now able to access the internet, and we are very active in what we may call the social media platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, talk of Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Telegram, YouTube, among others. Let's move next. So we are seeing now that the space that we are trying to discuss this week has now emerged, or is already emerged as the 5th largest strategic space. When we say 5th largest, traditionally, we usually have land, and the people fight over land. When they were tired of fighting over land, they went into the waters. They began to develop very sophisticated maritime vessels. We know of aircraft carriers that are able to carry a whole fleet of stealth fighter jets. When they got tired to fight in the waters, they went into the air. And when they got tired of fighting in the air, they went to space. And now because the first 4 have already been overutilized, now we have got into the cyberspace. So we are saying that the world is increasingly getting connected. And we cannot be able to avoid noticing one another, not necessarily physically, but within the cyberspace. So it presents for us new avenues, and each one of us, we can be able to attack one another, not using spears, not using bow and arrows, but we can be able to attack each other through the cyber space. Most importantly, we have what we call the critical information infrastructure, which is very vulnerable. We'll be able to see as we progress with this discussion. Let's go next. So this is just a summary of what I was just trying to refer to. So from land warfare into the maritime space, where people now are able to use the oceans to maneuver their states and their forces into the air, into the space, down now within the cyber domain. Every serious state now within the global system is developing serious, and I repeat, serious cyber force capability. What the layers need now to help us here is when the KDF is recruiting, and don't quote me, we look at your height, 5'8", we look at your breadth, if there's something called like that, we look at your weight, we look at how many teeth, if they are all intact, and somebody was joking, tunaenda kuuma al-shababu na meno, and all that. So now, within the new warfare domain, are we going still to maintain the same recruitment criteria, both within the KDF, the police, and all the security forces? Because I know the private sector don't mind. They take, as long as you have the brains, you can pass the various interviews. Okay? Therefore, we are saying cybersecurity is a national security matter, with both national and also global implication and perspectives. We have actors within the space, and these actors are both state and also non-state actors. When I talk about state actors, are nations that are pursuing their interests within the cyberspace to influence the adversaries so that they may be able to gain what we may call a tactical advantage against them. We have non-state actors. Key among them, especially in Kenya, are the cyber criminals that want to use the cyberspace for financial gain. We'll be able to look at that. The last bullet there is very important. Therefore, we as a country, we've been able to adopt what we are calling a multi-agency, whole-of-government approach. The Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act 2018 establishes the organization that I head, that is NC4, as a multi-agency body that is mandated now to be able to coordinate all the national cybersecurity issues. And the members are as shown. We have where the PS sits as the chairman of NC4, that is the Ministry of Internal Security and National Administration, deputized by the Ministry of Information, Communication, and Digital Economy. We have the State Law Office to take care of the legal issues. We have the KDF to take care of the cyber defense issues. We have the National Police Service to take care of cybercrime issues. We have the National Intelligence Services to be able to take care of all the information gathering and intelligence matters. Central Bank of Kenya to take care of all the financial issues within the cyberspace. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, so that once the police have completed their work, then they hand over for prosecution. Then we have the Communications Authority of Kenya as a regulator of the ICT and the communication sector. Then recently, we were able to co-opt the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner to take charge of what we call the personal data issues. I brought a slide here that just lists the various categories of threats. But point to note, just go back one slide. Point to note is the multi-agency approach to matter cybersecurity, where we are able to use the various mandates of the members to achieve a national objective. So once you bring a complaint or you bring an issue to NC4 Secretariat, so we'll be able to look out of these member entities who is the best suited person to be able to handle that matter. So if you report that somebody has stolen my money through the mobile phone, of course we have the DCI, we have the Communications Authority of Kenya, among others, and also the presence of Central Bank of Kenya. So we have enough capacity within NC4 to be able to take charge or to handle any matter that comes into perspective. Additionally, the Secretariat has also built capacity, and we are working with various stakeholders with a complement of 75 staff at full complement, which we are yet to fill due to some other reasons. Then the Secretariat is also able to handle most of the issues that Kenyans are contending with within the cyberspace. Look at the threats now. Generally, let's go forward. The threats within the space, these are very common, so I'll not belabor on them. From the denial of service, which we suffered last year, July, with our e-citizen system, the various ransomware attacks that even today as we speak, most of the organizations are still contending with these attacks, all the way into subversion, where information is used to twist opinion, to twist thinking, up to the fraud, which is very common within the Kenyan cybersecurity ecosystem, up to harassment. And I hope most of us are not coming from the Gen Z generation. And if we are, then we are here also to appeal to our younger people so that we stop. Harassment is a crime under the Kenyan law. And as you navigate within the cyberspace, and I hope I'll be given security to, to safely evacuate me from this building. These are good conversation. Go and read the CMCA 2018 Act and its regulations. We believe in the freedom of expression. Freedom belongs to the people. Power belongs to the people. But in the process of exercising this freedom of expression, and the power that belongs to the people, make sure that you don't step into other people's toes. Let's move ahead. So one of the biggest problems that we are contending with within this space is what we are calling the hostile social manipulation, where the social space is being used purposefully to systematically generate and disseminate information through what we may call key influencers, with an objective to be able to skew or to set the agenda. I might just call it that way, to set the agenda either for or against. And that has led to what we are calling the weaponization of the social media. So as you get into WhatsApp, into Facebook, and into all these social media platforms, everybody that is posting an opinion there has an objective. Are we together? Are we all together? And you must be able to be very careful to understand what is the objective of the person that is posting that message. If it's a person that you know, if it's a person you don't know, you just need to be able to understand the spirit. They usually say there's the spirit behind every information. Some people are just passing information. Some people are just informing. Some people are just updating. Other people are just trying to inform. But always be careful to be able to observe and operate within the acceptable limits. Let's move ahead. Key here, and is something that is coming out strongly, is what we are calling cyber infrastructure attacks. Remember, most of these cyber infrastructures, most of these cyber infrastructure attacks are targeting somebody from Kenyan. I think they asked a question here to the PS. We have what we call supervisory control and data acquisition systems that seeks to control either its generation, distribution, transmission, distribution for power, if it is water, and controls of the various transport systems. It is now what I may call an offense to be able to target an information system that is operating or sustaining a life or an essential service. Okay? So if you attack a Kenya power system or a Kenyan system or a Kenyatta National Hospital system, which I am happy is represented here, or for example, a water service distribution system, then in one way or another, that is an act of war. And I bring it to you for discussion. You have 3 days. By the end of these 3 days, we should be able to agree and disagree on such these matters. Because if you have the whole country running out of power, for example, we have people in the theaters that are being operated. We have children in schools that are learning. We have universities that have top-notch research laboratories that depend on power. And you are there, you have disconnected the grid, then what are you trying to achieve, or what are you trying to say? If you disable, and for example, our own SGR, because they have to change the lens for the various locomotives to be able to move, and in one or another, then you've changed in such a way that you've infiltrated the system and 2 or 3 locomotives have collided and lives have been lost. What have you achieved? Okay, let's move forward. So, we are also saying that we have threats due to new and emerging technologies. To us, this is a double-edged sword. We are promoting what we may call constructive, ethical, and economical use of new and emerging technologies, as well as discouraging their use to sabotage either people, the nation, the economy, or organizations. So the list is long. I will not wish to belabor on it. Let's move forward. And I have 15 minutes, which I want to confine myself into. This slide shows the various threats and who are the actors within those that space. What are their techniques and what motivates them? So I'll just use one as an example, and which is most common in this country. That is the cyber criminals. For long, we thought that committee is the main source of cyber criminals, especially the mobiles. Every time schools are about to be closed, you'll always receive a message. Dadi tuma fare kwa hii namba. Ni namba ya mwalimu. Every time we reach end of the month, you'll receive a message from a fake landlord. Tumebadilisha namba, sasa weka rent into this account. And so and so. So we have specialists now in this country, and I believe they are not seated here. If they are your cousins or your brothers, please begin to preach this gospel to them so that we use the cyberspace for economic gain, okay? Not to defraud other people. So what are their tactics? Of course, mainly social engineering. I remember a time that I was doing a project. This is a true story. And I talked to my fundi very well. He said, okay, once I reach the hardware, I'll let you know. So 10 minutes down the line, I just received a message. Weka tuma kwa hii number. So my innocent me with my PhD, okay, nikatuma kwa hiyo number. So I put it into that number for those of us who don't understand Kiswahili. And I just got to do my thing, and I was wondering, why is the fundi not coming? What? Then after a few other minutes, the fundi is here calling. I've been waiting at the hardware. You have not paid. I said, okay. But I too much in that number. So only to realize that the money is what? The money is gone. Luckily, it was not so much, but it's still a shilling is a what? Is a shilling. What is their motivation? Of course, financial gain, and also to enhance their reputation. As we move towards the end of my presentation, we need to check now how do we need to enhance our legal system, both the courts, the prosecution, the investigators, Because this is a crime that has endured in Kenya. We can't be almost 15 years, 10 years, still fighting the same crime. Every day, every time. The same people going to the courts, coming out, the same people going to the courts, coming. It means there is a problem. And I want this conference to be able to give us a solution towards that. Of course, the problem of insiders, nation-state actors, which I believe my colleagues from the Kenya Defense Forces will be able to handle. We have the activists and, of course, terrorist organizations who use the cyberspace for their own good. Let's move forward. I've already mentioned that. The only addition here is the thrill seekers. I don't know if in Kenya we have the thrill seekers who just want to use the cyberspace for purposes of gaining satisfaction. Of course, the rest are, as already discussed in the previous slide. Let's move forward. What are the trends that we are seeing at the government level? I don't know, maybe I believe somebody will be able to speak for the universities and also for the private sector. At the government, we are seeing more and more masked and concealed cyber attacks. Being able to identify the source of attack is a big problem. You will just agree with me, because people are able to hire everything. They can hire people, they can hire computers, they can hire systems. So that is something that we needed to get a solution out of this conference. Number two is now the increased monetization of this cyberspace, where now people are looking at it more as an economic space to gain, for financial gain. We are seeing increased scams, especially in the cryptocurrency domain. I believe all of us, in one or another, we've had somebody trying to recruit us into some of these, they used to be called pyramid schemes. Nowadays, there are various scams within the space. You'll always get offers, WhatsApp messages, and they are very good. Once they take over your phone, they begin to use that phone now to distribute messages to your group, to your WhatsApp groups, to your friends, and all that. We are seeing increased threats that are being propagated fully through the mobile devices, increased automated creation of malicious codes. More so, we are also seeing now the new AI coming into the perspective, into the space, also to reinforce both the criminals who want to be able to use the space for financial gain. Let's move forward. Okay, we will skip that. Let's go forward. Let's move forward. Okay, now what is the future from where we sit in terms of this cybersecurity? I think John already took it. John, I think you stole my slides. Okay, so the future of cybersecurity, okay, is artificial intelligence. Pink, that one is yours. We'll give you a chance to defend yourself in this podium in terms of what you've seen. We've seen emerging of technologies, so many of them. People are researching. The universities are busy. The telco companies are busy researching and pushing forward new technologies. Before you are able to adopt into this one has come. Before you are able to adopt into this one has come. AI will aid in the automation of repetitive cybersecurity tasks, which is good. But again, it is bad, because if it is a DDoS, then the same AI will also be pushing continuously, where you are trying to shield and to fight and to save your system. Remember, now it is no longer a person you are fighting against, okay? It is now an AI-driven system that is being used to be able to push through what you are fighting. We are seeing AI security technologies that are able to run continuous data analytics on monitored security events data, which can also be used to detect new threats much faster than we are able to do. But we are not saying AI is replacing us or replacing any human being. I think that's one of the debates that we should be able to have. Let's move forward. So the future continued. AI will also play an important role in advising and alerting humans in real time about specific cyber risks. We are going to have advanced reasoning and decision-making capabilities with what we are calling autonomous agents. And most of those of us within the security sector, then we need to be able to invest more time to be able to understand the nexus between cybersecurity and artificial intelligence and how the two they can be able to support one another to be able to achieve the mission of securing the cyberspace. Let's move forward. This is just a slide that shows the various things that we need to do to protect the national cyberspace. It's not exhaustive, but it's very common. It can be applicable in government and also within the private sector. Let's go so that we have enough time for questions. Let's move forward. So, as I conclude, I just want to bring forward the following thoughts. Number one is to continue enhancing the cybersecurity multi-agency approach and collaboration. We are thinking of giving a seat to within the NC4 because as we stand now, we don't have a rep from the academia. We also don't have a rep from the private sector. So we need to check, can the lawyers push, for example, for an amendment to the act to reserve a seat for the academia and also for the private sector so that when government is sitting to discuss matters of cyber, the academia and also the private sector is represented. That ball is in your court. I cannot push it myself because I'll be accused of conflict of what? Interest. Number two is to, of course, to strengthen the various legal and regulatory frameworks. I usually say we are not short of laws, okay? When I say we are not short of laws, this country's biggest problem is good lawyers. We just have good lawyers who are able to pick out loopholes. Every act in this country, they're able to pick loopholes. So in the end, we think that this law is not working. So we push amendments. Is my time up? Okay, we push amendments to seal those loopholes. And as we push amendments, the lawyers continue picking up more what? More loopholes. Please don't quote me on that. I don't want to problems with the lawyers. Number two, of course, is to check on the various policies. We don't have a cybersecurity policy, but we are developing one, and we are hoping that by the end of this year, our policy will be in place. But we have the laws and the regulations. Issues of capacity building, allow me just to mention so that I allow time for questions. Information and intelligence sharing. You don't need to have been trained security officer for you to share information. Sema tu nimeona mtu mfupi mweusi, mwanaume, anafanya hivi. Hii wengine will work on it and will know how to package it in the right manner. Issues of research and development. Matters of international collaboration. There are two critical international conventions, one for Africa and the other for the Council of Europe. And lastly, but not the least, as I said, the role of the universities and the private sector players. Ladies and gentlemen, with those few slides and remarks, thank you for listening to me. I'm here now. I'll take all the questions that you are supposed to ask the PS. I was really afraid you're asking him very difficult questions. So, but I'm here now. Bring them on. I have Dr. Njoga there from the NC4 Secretariat. Has he gone? He's here, yes. I have Lenkai from the NC4 Secretariat somewhere. I have David. I have so many delegates here from the NC4 Secretariat, plus the entities. When I say the entities and the ministries, the various security actors will be able to take all your questions so that going forward, now you can be able to continue this forum well enlightened on the role of government and NC4. And somebody's hand is itching. Please give him the microphone. Ndugu sasa utatoa sauti. Ama ukuje hapa mbele. Give that brother. I can take a round of 3. Somebody help me with a paper. I can put him sound. Get me a notebook or a paper. And as I answer these questions, I'm not using my time now because I've already finished giving my lecture. Now we are using the time of the MC. Okay, my brother, say your name and the issues you want us to deliberate.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name once again still remains Habi Sijeni from Avenue Healthcare. Don't be scared, these are not all questions. I've seen you've called the backup plans. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so thank you for well detailed information that you've shared with us, Dr. James, and some of the key things that I'm looking up into the electrical aspect when they were talking about the infrastructure. How ready are we to implement the IoT infrastructure in matters electricity? Because even in electricity, we understand, you talked about probably just the people here. Let them not have the maliciousness of attacking people, but outside there we have various types of attackers. We have the black hat, the white hat, and the gray hat. And what measures are you putting in place in terms of now implementation of IoT into the electric infrastructure? Because if you check on the history, in US was attacked in 2015, 2016. There was an attack that happened in US. Ukraine back 2015, 2016. Saudi Arabia in 2017 using the Shamoon ransomware. And it exposed a lot of this data, and it's because of the implementation of this artificial intelligence. So how ready are we in matters implementing the IoT? And let's, as much as we are implementing the artificial intelligence, let's not forget the aspect of the human aspect, which is very, very critical. Nowadays we have zero-day attacks. It is unless somebody feeds the AI, because these are models that you feel that you give them information. So now when we are implementing this artificial intelligence, how ready are we not to sideline the human aspect? Matters understanding what is a false positive, analyzing these alerts and even the threats.
Thank you. If I was the University of Nairobi, I'll have given you a free master's. Those questions are so tough. Okay, my sister. So as my sister asked her question, I'll ask David to prepare to answer the question on, it's called, okay, IoT. Okay. I hope there's no any other question. I'm told my time is up. Okay, my sister, you can ask.
For me, I just wanted to reiterate what you said in terms of partnership and collaboration between governments and entities. I sit in different work groups. I'm a trained computer scientist, and also I've worked in the realms of the software development and also security. So I have a lot of knowledge in terms of policy making and also working around teams. So in terms of working around work groups, what are those kind of work groups internationally that you as NC4 are part of that inform you of the current trends? For instance, there are so many work groups in the UN, in the IGF, in the ICANN, in the AFICTAS and African Union that are centered around just discussing issues to do with security, cybersecurity, and policies around that. And what is your take about that? And are you open to collaborations with organizations that are focused on aspects to do with policy making and also cybersecurity issues and AI?
Okay, I see still one more hand. That's the last one. So, okay. David, Daktari will answer the question on partnerships and collaboration. I'm now unleashing my resources.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
My name is Kevin S. Isom, and I'm a founder of SIM Shield Africa, which is a tool that is enabling you to be able to respond to SIM swap fraud, incident response, and all that. So my question is, what is the take on NC4 on SIM swapping? Because when I was starting
On what, please?
SIM swap fraud.
Okay.
Because when I was starting on this journey of creating a product design, one of the first articles I met was from NC4 on SIM swapping. And I could see that the measures and advice of them were mostly based on personal, please confirm messages, please confirm that this is from M-Pesa. So we're currently building the tool, but now what I would love to hear from you from NC4 is, how big is the problem, how painful is the problem, and currently what are the measures we're taking towards addressing that problem, and are they working, or the progress on that? Thank you.
Thank you. Lenka, you'll answer that question. Swim swapping, how big the problem is and the measures. So let's go to David. David, please answer on the question on the SCADA systems. We heard about the black, the white, the gray hats, and I know the hats are still will continue. What happened in the USA, Ukraine, Saudi Arabia? We've had a few incidences here in Kenya. Please react to that. Then I'll react on the human aspect of AI. Then David, Dr. Njoga will answer on the partnerships. Then Lenkai will complete with the SIM swapping. Then we end our session. You want to start? Okay.
Let me start because I have the mic. Let me talk about partnerships. My sister, there are lots of partnerships and collaborative frameworks that you may consider.
The mic has gone off. We should gazette this as a critical infrastructure. Once it's gazetted, then you'll be in trouble.
Yeah, so at the national level, we have numerous task force and technical working groups at various ministries and agencies. At the Ministry of Interior, currently there's a technical working group as well as a task force, which also incorporates various interested parties from academia, industry, and other sectors. In terms of the region, of course, Kenya is part of the discussions towards enactment of the African Union Convention on Cyber Crimes and Data Privacy, the Malabo Convention. Therefore, that also creates numerous working groups towards sustaining that convention. And the same has been escalated to the UN. Currently, the discussions through technical working groups, and we have officers from judiciary, police service, and so on, discussing the cybersecurity norms within the UN level. Then again, we are also towards the end of ratifying the Budapest Convention, which is one of the largest cybercrimes collaborative frameworks globally. So much is happening. I think just keep your aerial top high and open, and you should be able to support some of these initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Njoga. Okay.
Sorry guys, I have a question for this guy here. Why is this collaboration not in the public domain? Why is it that we don't know where you are getting your policies, your strategies, and it's publicized that we can use them for education and even for public participation?
John, we are not fighting.
We're not fighting, but as government, we are mandated to disseminate some of these initiatives through official platforms. One of them is the Kenya Gazette, which most Kenyans, unfortunately, do not take their civic duty to read, among other platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay. David, are you ready for the SCADA question? Let's get the microphone to David Kimemia. Oh, I thought it's this side. Okay. No. David, sorry. Lenka, you want to answer on
SIM swapping,
SIM swapping. Okay.
And other issues. I think my name is Lenkai. I work at NC4 Secretariat, and I want to react to what was asked on SIM swapping and actually associated. Now, I want to say that these frauds in Kenya are not limited to SIM swapping alone. It's not only sent to this number or you have a SIM card has been swapped or something. It is a whole network of frauds. And I can say that how much are we losing? We are losing a lot, and Kenyans are losing a lot. We are really worried when the government system goes down, but we are not worried when a Kenyan loses his or her shilling. You see? So we have put emphasis on securing critical infrastructure, but also remember these SIM cards or the M-Pesa system is a critical infrastructure, and I think we have managed the problem relatively. We have not eliminated it, but SIM swapping has been managed. The greatest challenge comes also with the awareness of Kenyans. Kenyans have an appetite for investment. So every policy scheme, every investment opportunity without even doing some background checks, we are all there. We take loans to invest on cryptocurrencies, remember, and we lose a lot of money. Then we just keep quiet. Then we go to another policy scheme, we invest, we keep on reinvesting, and losing a lot. So it is all about awareness, but some of these problems have been managed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's get response on the question on SCADA systems. If possible, you can also handle the human aspect of artificial intelligence. There are 2 questions.
Thank you very much, sir. If I got you right, this is readiness to implement IoT and AI and not sideline the human elements. And to begin with, when we look at the IoT, we are looking at embedded systems, and these are devices or systems with limited capacity in terms of memory and the processing capability, and therefore it is actually difficult to enforce encryption and security controls. And if we do we have a protocol that is suitable to enforce encryption? And I remember some time back as NC4, we had this collaboration with the NIST, whereby we were looking at encryption protocols for embedded devices or devices with limited memory capability, and we're yet to look into that findings. But however, that could be one way of looking at that. Alternatively, is how do we look at cloud hosting solutions for the IoT, and the OT, and how are you able to segregate the two in order that you reduce the attack surface that could actually eventually come from this? And this is a new and I would say a gray area that we'll need to develop policies and standards on how best do we create cloud hosting for the OT technologies. When we talk of the human element, if I got it right, is the human-centric cybersecurity is whereby you look at considerations and you build cybersecurity around the human, and that is by looking at both the hard and soft issues. By hard, you look at the infrastructure. By soft, you look at policies that are actually suitable for the human element. And I hope I've answered your questions.
Thank you, David. Are you also an alumni of this university? Tell them. He's also an alumni of this great university. So we are proud of you, ladies and gentlemen from NC4. I know you have a lot, but time is not on our side. We'll have wished to spend a whole day with you to be able to give you assurance on what you're doing. But for now, that's what we have. God bless you.
Thank you for that. Please, let's appreciate Dr. Ari one more time with a round of applause. Thank you. Absolutely appreciate you. I loved your presentation, especially even when you were touching on phishing and the effects it has. I know one of our partners, Fortinet, who have a booth outside there, they have quite the expertise when it comes to make sure that we can mitigate that. Even to the ladies that I was having a conversation with, feel free to also log into websites like Fortinet, free certifications that are there. You can be able to check it out and also keep abreast on that. I personally have done NC 1, 2, 3 certifications by Fortinet, so it's quite informative and it can set you apart. beautiful thing and the wonderful conversation that we have with AI and where we are. I was actually asking myself, I tried an AI platform and I wanted to find out what would Obama say about me. Let me see if we can be able to play this.
My fellow Kenyans, and most importantly, my fans, I urge you to be like the fine gentleman who goes by the name Ian Muiruri, better known as Iansky. This man is the future. I watch his life and often wonder how he's able to avoid.
So you can easily just get into an AI platform, and I tried to use the voice of Obama, and I got to use the voice of also Donald Trump. But the interesting thing is that I couldn't post it on my social media platform. Though on the back end, there were security measures that were taking that into effect. So definitely the world is evolving and changing. So thank you for that, Dr. Now we'd like to move to our next conversation, and our speaker is going to guide us, our seasoned speaker is going to guide us on national cybersecurity policy and strategy. I have come to know this wonderful speaker as a visionary when it comes to leadership, and who also ensures the highest standards in cybersecurity, safeguarding organizations and nations alike. He's the head of cybersecurity policy and strategy and standards at NC4. He is a highly accomplished and talented, knowledgeable ICT professional with extensive knowledge when it comes to designing new ICT solutions. He has been going with the mantra that national security, cybersecurity is national security. He is a cyber governance extraordinaire and also a digital transformation key focused individual with also cyber diplomacy under his focus. He is a researcher and he is a trainer. Ladies and gentlemen, help me appreciate with a warm round of applause Dr. David Njoga as he comes forward to guide us in this particular conversation. We are honored to have you here, and as we say in Swahili, Daktari karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Ian, for that introduction, and good afternoon, delegates. It is very difficult to speak after my boss. I know he has not left, but this is going to be a continuation of what he discussed at the previous session on the national best practices, especially for protecting the cyberspace. So, my presentation will focus on a few areas. One is on the national cybersecurity policy, having given some perspective. This next slide. Just having given a perspective into national security. Again, that's my mantra. Cybersecurity is national security. The PowerPoint guy, please. Next slide. Next one, please. Okay, so we'll talk about some elements of national security context, and we are saying that cybersecurity is part of the discussion that we cannot ignore when we are discussing matters national security because of the context in which it is placed. For some time, it has been a technical problem that people are discussing, but now we are saying it is a strategic national security concern because it revolves around protection of citizens against any aggression or against any threats from within or without the borders. And we know that our porous cyber borders, which some people say are undefined, pose this threat to a lot of us. Because again, the rights, the freedoms, the dignity, the privacy of all citizens is something that is responsibility of government. And we from the Ministry of Interior, we are aligned with that mandate. Next slide, please. So we are looking at the various elements in terms of how best then do we adopt global best practices to support the protection of our digital ecosystem. Next slide. We're looking at the changing, what we're saying, the instant world and the interdependent world. Technology has made activities in the global to be instant. Just by a pronouncement on digital platform, so many things can happen in terms of various cyber crimes, including hacketism and so on and so forth. So we look at also the information revolution. So much information is being captured on the digital platforms. That's why we have huge storage capabilities, big data, AI capabilities, analytics, and so on and so forth. We also look at the growing economic cleavages and insecurity The transnational organized crimes, again, you see cybercrime is something happening beyond the borders. Therefore, we see various tactics, various impacts, like was presented by Colonel Dr. Kimuyu previously. Also look at the actors, the non-state actors, the state actors, you know. Again, the sophistication of the kind of warfare activities we see in the cyberspace, you know, being asymmetrical, some element of kinetic warfare, again, also being noticed, given some of the latest research, just like the recent incident that happened in the Middle East of some 3,000 pagers being blown, you know, some very interesting but very terrifying technological innovations around warfare capabilities. And there are concerns about privatization of security. As we stand now, we see a lot of technology vendors, owners, you know, operators, support engineers being private sector. That is something that we must think about, and that is why, as we continue the mantra that as a private sector, you know, manage security solutions, they should remember that cybersecurity solutions are really enhancing on national security objectives. Next slide. So one of the things, I won't go through this, it has been spoken to by all the speakers, including the chief guest, in terms of the objectives of national cybersecurity. But more importantly, we look at how do we coin, you know, the discussion around having cybersecurity within our ecosystem. Now, one of the things that we need to do as a step is to have a strategy. Where are we? Where do we want to be? Let me pose this question to the Kenyans in this room and the non-Kenyans who are also researchers and did some background check before coming to Kenya to look at, to talk about cybersecurity. How many of you have read the National Cybersecurity Strategy for Kenya? Let me see, your hands high. Okay, National Cybersecurity Strategy. Okay, thank you very much for those who have read that. It's a civic duty. Again, it is your direct contribution towards protecting your country. Okay? Don't wait for anyone to help you protect your country. It's your own direct contribution. So what we are saying is that it's actually the first step in having a national cybersecurity program. The other way is that it's, you know, it also talks about bringing together multiple stakeholders. And I am glad, or we are glad for that matter as NC4, to be in this forum, this workshop, or this conference, for that matter, to talk about the collaboration between government, industry, and academia, because the involvement of stakeholders, you know, whatever you do in this ecosystem, from being a mere consumer to being a developer of a solution, to being, you know, part of the cyber defense, where the front lines and so on, is very, very important. The other things about how do we integrate, you know, cybersecurity fundamentals and look at how we align them with the various activities in various sectors. Look at economic sectors, manufacturing, agriculture, you know, telecoms, and so on and so forth, as well as public sector that is the business of providing public goods to wananchi. But lastly, it's about the creation of laws, enabling laws that will support a conducive environment, outlawing some of the misuse and activities that are seen criminal. And that is why our act, the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act, has outlawed around 36 activities as criminal with very severe punishments. I hope you have read the law. How many of you have read the law? The Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act? Okay. How many of you have been charged under Section 22 or 23? Okay. But I'm sure if I check, if I snoop your phones, your messages and so on, those forwards, which is false information, you're guilty of publication of false information contrary to Section 22, read together with 23. Okay? So be on the lookout in terms of those laws that enable a secure cyberspace. Next slide. So as a country, we are focusing on developing a very robust national cybersecurity policy. It is work in progress and can confirm that it's at very advanced stages, and we are soon coming out to you as a public, as stakeholders, for public comments. But above all, this is actually a government's commitment in terms of safeguarding the digital ecosystem from cyber crimes or computer misuse, given that the government's agenda is pegged on digital transformation, which is one of the pillars in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. It's also a strategic response towards the pervasive and the dynamic nature, the complex cybersecurity threats that we encounter from time to time. Next slide. So the goals that we anticipate once this policy, of course, this is borrowed. Policies are available in many well-established ecosystems. But the good news is last week we were graded the second most mature cybersecurity ecosystem in Africa. How many of you read that report? University of Nairobi research. Okay. Yeah, so this is an ITU report. It's done after every 2 years in terms of cybersecurity maturity in various ecosystems. And they look at 5 pillars. One is legal frameworks. They look at technical controls, capacity, and capability. And then the other one is on cooperation and collaboration. I think where we didn't score 20 out of 20 was on laws and legal framework. So again, we are aware of some of the progress that we are making towards improving that. So those are some of the goals that we're looking at. And most importantly, I think, and most relevant to this conference is the last goal, which is to foster public-private partnership, collaboration, and cooperation. Next slide, please. So apart from that, the other instrument we have is the National Cybersecurity Strategy, which our poll, next slide, please, confirmed that most of you have not looked at. But in summary, in fact, this should have been my only slide for the time I was allocated, but I need to set some grounding. Our vision in this strategy, which is running from 2022 to 2027, is secure and trusted cyberspace. So, trust our Kenyan cyberspace. Are we safe online? Okay. But you trust that Uber can navigate you from point A to your home without getting lost, isn't it? And that M-Pesa will be remitted to your phone after somebody promised to send it, by number, isn't it? So let's build the trust, but again, there's so much to be done. So in our mission, we look at building a secure and resilient cyberspace through a coordinated approach. So that coordination is achieved through this kind of collaboration. And we want to maximize on the benefits of a digital economy. So digital transformation is key. Now look at the 6 pillars of the strategy. The first being cybersecurity governance, and that's a pillar that establishes institutions and frameworks that can manage cybersecurity. Currently we have NC4, but we also have cybersecurity governance and management responsibilities within various ministries and agencies. Like Kenya Defense Forces has the mandate of cyber defense. The National Police Service have got the mandate of cybercrime investigations and others. So we need to take note of that. We also have the policies, laws, regulations, and standards, which I won't talk about. It's been overkilled. Critical information infrastructure protection. Again, a digital economy relies on technology. Now, our critical economic sectors depend on various systems, and that is what makes it critical for us. And I think that has also been overkilled by previous speakers. Capacity is a challenge. I think as at yesterday, I did research. We report 265% shortage of cybersecurity professionals globally. So when you talk about being jobless, it could be a problem that you have not identified how to repackage yourself for the market. And I believe the speakers who are coming after me, I want to put this challenge. How can we repackage our students, our professionals, so that they can meet that dire shortage of cybersecurity workforce globally? The other one is about cybercrime management, I've talked about, and lastly, the issue of collaboration and cooperation. Let's also consider other best practices. Let's just proceed to the next slide, please. In terms of developing a superior cybersecurity workforce. Superior means a workforce that is resilient, a workforce that is dynamic, a workforce that is very agile and can deal with current and future challenges. Not the workforce that they get perplexed when they see a very, very rare cyber attack like we've seen in the previous instances. Again, the issue of building international cybersecurity capability is important. That is why I explained that we are really looking at collaboration and partnerships with a lot of multinational organizations in tech business as well as government, so that we can have that capability. We must also think about reducing transnational criminal organizations in cyberspace. Again, Anonymous Sudan and others. Yeah, I'm even trying to imagine that the Mulot boys are not locals, okay? Because of the manner in which they do their things. and many others. So again, we need to strengthen the partner nations' laws, and a lot of legal reforms are required, as much as partnerships and collaborations, so that we can have a strong framework for punishing criminals, wherever they are, on the surface or beneath the earth. Next slide, please. The last one. Okay. So we see opportunities, one of which I think the director NC4 has promised that we should have the Kenya National Cybersecurity Policy by the end of this year, which will set this directive from the top and therefore guide all our activities towards that endeavor of securing our cyberspace. We are also concerned about situational awareness, and I think the regulations that were enacted in March this year are alive to the fact that every critical information infrastructure owner must establish a cybersecurity operations center with defined capabilities, not just capabilities, but defined global practices of capabilities of what meets cybersecurity operations centers. Then again, we must look at cybersecurity, as a key dimension of national security, as we also strengthen the national coordination of cybersecurity efforts. That is very important, and therefore, as NC4, we encourage everyone to report any cybersecurity incidents to us or to any responsible entities like the National Police Service for the purposes of effective response to that. Last slide. Thank you very much. And please visit us on that URL and get lots of information, all those laws, all those frameworks, all those standards, all those reporting lines, including the ones for anonymous reporting, so that you can be guided and supported accordingly. It is our responsibility to respond to any cyber incident, including loss of the cheapest mobile device, as well as that insult by a stranger. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Dr. Njoga. Let's appreciate Dr. Njoga one more time. Dr. Njoga, I believe that you have an open door policy, just in case the wealth of information that you brought here on the table, just in case any of the delegates would come and approach you, I believe you can be able to have a conversation with them. Thank you for that, and we appreciate your insight on this very pertinent discussion. Thank you, Dr. David Njoga. All right, fantastic. Let's go to our next speaker, who is going to guide us on collaboration is key. This is bridging government, academia, and also industry, which is quite the conversation. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is a man who has over 20 years of experience in cybersecurity and also an extensive background in consulting in the highest government and also enterprise levels in Asia, Europe, and also in Africa. Definitely bringing cutting-edge science with actionable policy, technology, and also business needs. He is the head of research at Tel Aviv University. Ladies and gentlemen, help me appreciate with a hearty, warm round of applause Dr. Leo Tabalski as he comes forward. Please, let's appreciate him one more time. Dr. Leo, we are glad and honored to have you here. Welcome once again.
Thank you once again. I would like to share some reflections on the journey towards building more secure and more resilient civilian cyberspace. As I have said already, there is no way to get the benefits of digital transformation if people are not have enough trust and belief that what is going on in this digital world is indeed trustworthy. Yeah? So we all use payment applications, this and that, and for some reason we do believe that what is written there, yeah, is exactly the money that should be written there, the numbers. As long as people have long experience with denial of service, it appears that it does not really have dramatic detrimental effects on trust in reliability of the data, such as your personal data or critical financial infrastructure that operate our money and so on. However, there has been changes. We have not yet seen a situation where instead of stealing our money, adversaries would change the balance slightly over time and lead to a full distrust of the society in this system. But in different societies, the situation is different. During my recent work with the World Bank, we worked in low-income economies, and where a short while after digital money was introduced, the amount of fraud was large. Of course, the amounts were very small, but a lot of people got affected. And it really was a unfortunate, let's say, national experiment into what can happen when there is no major technical disaster, but trust is not earned and lost. And this is just one of the examples. Now, one of the main policy areas to ensure that the state fulfills its duty to protect the citizens is the area of critical infrastructure protection. Things like, we already heard a question here about electricity transformation, which is to a large extent controlled by industrial automation control systems. And these are obviously the things that you cannot just rely on the operator to secure. The extent of the damage will be too high for any society to afford, and this is the area where state has a direct duty to intervene and protect. 25 years ago, this area did not exist. There were some American official declarations about the importance of future critical infrastructure protection, projecting the trends of the developing of computing and operational technology. It is, and when organizations were starting to consider what to do about it, there was nowhere to come for advice, experience, or a suggestion. Fortunately, this is no longer the case. In our country, the first policy on critical infrastructure protection set up in 2002. So about 20 years ago, it was started to be executed. With the main figure is that the state has not only the mandate to instruct the operators what they need to do. This is relatively easy. This is what governments usually like to do, to issue directives, instructions, laws, and so on. Easy to do, has a little effect. It turns out that in areas where you have no sources of capability or expertise, and even if you would like to say, look, I am the government, I will give you a subsidy if you only go and procure the right things to protect, let's say, your power generation facility. There were no such things on the market. And moreover, it will continue to be the case. Critical infrastructure, especially physical ones, each one is different. Yes, they use common technology, but each one is different. And the amount of this critical infrastructure is not enough to justify market investment. So this is one area where the governments will continue to need to invest, to find the right approaches, to tailor them to the conditions, and to do it all the time, because as we know, the rate of change in technology is continuing to grow. Take all of the initiatives about climate sustainability, green areas. When you start scratching the surface a little bit, and guys who study here, they probably understand it better than me, you will see that all of the green solutions that exist, from alternative energy sources to precision agriculture to water purification and so on, all of them depend on pretty standard code and software, and also run often over cellular networks. Again, these things is another area that's coming up, where critical infrastructure is not only visible in one big facility, then you can concentrate the effort, but it is growing up and changing over time. So we haven't described the problem. Let's take the few minutes talking about the potential solution. I would say that we can distinguish between policy area and technology area. In the policy area, there are some advancements. There are some working approaches that have been working in different countries. And it's very easy to say, look, these guys have done it well. Go talk to them, take their approach, apply it in your country. It's usually it's a recipe for failure. As we all know, each society is different, and the critical infrastructure, again, on the face of it, every airport looks the same because it has a functional structure and functional requirements. But when you start going down to details, you will quickly find out that it is built from different building blocks, roles and responsibilities of different operators and stakeholders very widely, and it requires a very significant and long and expensive investment in figuring out what's going on, identifying the most important parts of this infrastructure. And I on purpose talk about cyber physical systems, such as energy or transportations and so on. Then tailor the right solutions. This part is vital. You cannot, if you skip it and go directly and buy, okay, give me 7 firewalls and 2 kilos of AI, and I'll bolt it together, and okay, it can work for commercial incentives, but it doesn't result in any meaningful improvement in security. And how do we know it? Because we see that the developed economies, advanced economies, have been trying to do something like this for a couple of decades now. Cybersecurity industry continues to grow. Every company states that the situation is only becoming worse year from year. You would say, hey, people are spending increasing amount of money on security. Take the multinational banks. They are like the most advanced in spending. Indeed, for 20 years, they'll be spending more and more money, both in absolute numbers and the share of the budget. Then you go talk to their owners, CEOs, and chief security officers. No one will tell you that their, let's say, resilience, or no one will tell you that they are more secure than have been before. Something is flawed in the process. One of the things that is flawed in the process, especially is relevant for critical infrastructure protection, which is the need to really plan and find out the exact way your operations work, your installation works, in order to find solutions. Now, when I say find solutions, the situation today is a bit better because for most common categories, you already have a market supply of say tools and technologies. So finding can be simpler. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. You need to do the right market research, procure, and install. Nevertheless, it doesn't cover 100% of the need. And in our experience, both as researchers that study this topic in our group in the universities and practitioners, the more important parts, the most important parts of every critical infrastructure do not have a solution available on the market. Now, what do you do in this case? Yeah? The market cannot develop something like this because the incentives are not there. The economic incentives are not there. You ask them to do something custom, and then they will sell at best one unit to the government through the public procurement process. It's not a good business plan. Yeah? It doesn't work even in the United States, where they have obviously a lot of resources. Here we come to again, the role that only a government should lead and attempt to solve. How do you solve it? Well, the government cannot do it on itself. The government can identify or support the work of the right experts to do the identification process and prioritization. Then, when you identify which is the core element that you need to really secure, protect, and defend, for this one, this will require tailored research and development. And this is a role where the government needs to create incentives and to draw work of researchers in academia and in the industry. This is not a popular opinion. The vendors, as you know, when you read their materials or go to any cybersecurity conference, the vendors have solutions. They have many solutions. These days, there are 305,000 cybersecurity vendors in the world. The total revenue of the industry continues to grow in double digits. None of these things will help solve this really less visible core functionality of the very complex cyber-physical systems and financial services that we all rely on daily. No one's going to do it, and this is exactly where the government, as a representative of the public interest, needs to come in. And this, if you agree with this thesis that I presented, then we will have to move forward and see how best can it be done. It does not require to do it all in the public sector. More importantly, it will not succeed. Here, there is a lot of good examples going on under the broad catchphrase public-private partnership, where each of the partners, let's talk about the three main categories: business, research institutions, and government, usually defense and security institutions. Each of them has different incentives. They're not partners in the sense that, okay, we all agree now on what we like. One is driven by one mission, another by another. So it's not all roses. There's a lot of work to figure out what are the right incentives and for the government to create the right conditions. Sometimes it's easier than it sounds. Sometimes we have lawyers finding different reasons in different statutes why something is forbidden to do or requires a special permit, why this unit cannot talk to this department, why procuring a certain service from these guys is not permitted because some obscure legal reasons. These things seem to be non-important, but in our experience, they really sink a lot of positive things that could be done. And there is no better way to identify them than bringing people together from different stakeholders, have them discuss, have them argue, and eventually work out the right solutions. To wrap up, as I agree that perhaps the most serious challenge that we as citizens face is not on our individual level, but on our dependency on critical infrastructure that is operated often by private sectors, sometimes by public, but none of them is able to secure it and protect it. No one will be able to do it alone. So we are going back to the need to find ways not only just to meet and greet and admire the problem, but invest serious efforts and resources in collaboration, first of all within the nation, then with trusted colleagues and partners elsewhere, to study each other's experience, to hear about problems that different colleagues have faced and how they dealt with them. This is how things can get better. Without that, if we only rely on playing catch-up and waiting for someone else to do the work for us, it's not going to work. Not only in cybersecurity, in other fields, but in this case, I'm only talking about critical infrastructure protection. So this is a call for action, and I hope that we will be able to advance this issue for the benefit of this country and open up the opportunities.
Thank you for that. Please, let's appreciate Dr. Leo one more time with a round of applause. Thank you. We appreciate you. And thank you for your insight on that. In the interest of time, we want to go to our next speaker, and who is going to guide us on the conversation briefly on the legal aspects of cybersecurity and forensics in Kenya. To guide us on this, ladies and gentlemen, is the chairman of the Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensics Association. Please help me appreciate with a warm round of applause Mr. Kenneth Agira as he comes forward. Makofi tafadhali, Mr. Agira. Welcome, sir. Glad to have you.
Good afternoon. The most difficult task is speaking very lunchtime. And for that reason, let me begin with a short story. It was Summer Olympic Games in 1962. Then, there was an athlete from Tanzania. You know what happened? People had completed racing 7 hours late. Then that's when he was entering the stadium, hobbling because he was in pain. Some people are wondering, and see, if such a thing happened, some people will be very happy. What do? They begin to congratulate him. So there was noise everywhere. But one curious person later on went to this gentleman and he asked him, my friend, why couldn't you just drop out? Then he told him, no, my country did not pay me to start the race, but to finish the race. Well, I'm here. I know towards lunchtime. Let me try what I can, so stay put. Number 2, I'll begin from where Colonel Muyo said, in this country, we have so much laws. We're never short of laws, isn't it? But then now the problem is, how do you utilize these laws? So my name is Kenneth Agira, of course, as he has said, Chairman, Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensic Association. That is just an association locally organized that brings together law enforcement guys who are interested in investigations, digital investigation that is. It brings together the ICT professionals, those who are interested in the security component of it, and also it brings together the so-called the legal practitioners, those who are interested. When matters go to court now, how does it progress? That's where I come from. Today, I want to present on legal aspects of cybersecurity in Kenya. The question is, right? What is it? Don't we have laws? Yes. How many are they? Very plenty. But I want to ask a simple question. Have a legal definition of cybersecurity? Or I'll conversely put this. How do you define cybersecurity? Technical guys will say the CIA, something that deals with confidentiality, integrity, and all that availability, isn't it? But you go to a lawyer, he'll be asking, what are you saying? Is it defined anywhere in the law? Hey, I'm asking you. So it's lunchtime, and so I'm a bad teacher. Hey, how many Kenyans, just let me ask, how many Kenyans are in the house? I know, almost all of it, isn't it? So where is it defined? Assuming you asked today, well, you don't need to worry so much. Imagine in Kenya, I think in Africa, Kenya should be the second or the third country that has defined cybersecurity in its statutes. Way back from 2013, you're wondering, how is that? Remember those days when there was SIM card, what we call SIM card registrations, when it was unlawful to have so many SIM cards without being registered. Remember? Around 2013. Then something happened. During that time, there was an act that was also passed called Kenya Information and Communication Amendment Act of 2013. You can Google, it's there. And you know what they did? For the first time, they defined cybersecurity. If you look at that bit, I don't know, I was struggling to read, but then, let me read for you. Cybersecurity means tools, policies, security, safeguards, guidelines, risk management approaches, actions, trainings, best practices, assurance, and technologies utilized to protect the cyber environment. Hey, don't you think that's a good definition? Don't you think it's a good definition? Wide enough to accommodate everything, isn't it? And also, it can accommodate much and also helps address an issue. What is that? What is the essence of that definition? It simply means it captures the wide array, what is in cybersecurity. You could be a best trainer in cybersecurity, isn't it? Are you a cybersecurity expert? You're just a lecturer, but you know how to deliver the content. Are you a cybersecurity expert? As per this law, yes. Somebody is just good in doing the defensive part of it. Oh, the systems are down, okay. What do we do? I can do patches here and there for things to work. That is also a cybersecurity expert, as per that definition. Or somebody just good in mating, could be, he knows the best tools. So, to me, this is good. What do you think? How many agree this is a good definition? Come again? It's perfect. Now you know. You know what I've come to do right now, towards lunchtime? I know you already know, but I just want to add something a little so that you know much more, isn't it? After all, mtu mkubwa anajuanga tu vitu vingi, isn't it? So with that definition, allow me to walk you to the historical bit of it. Hey, so cybersecurity, a very fancy word, but how did it begin locally? Where did it even begin in the first place? Well, I do not know for sure, but something I know, way back I can remember, I'm already down, let's go down the memory lane. I'm with you. We go back around 1990s. I know the Gen Zs are already here. Hey, maybe before you were born. So what happened? Back then, something called mobile phone also began finding its way in the market. And unluckily, I can't see the old people in the house. I mean, I say old people, I mean those ones with the gray hair, or this part has become, I don't see them here. So back around that time, what we saw then, mobile phones permeated our market. They came in various sizes. Do you remember? We're back the memory lane. So if you didn't have that one which had aerial, hey, I'm talking about the Motorola's and other. How many of you had them? You had that. And see, for you to carry it, you needed to put some suspender. Do you remember? These days people do not put on suspenders. But back then it was so big that you had to put it somewhere here and then the airtime. You remember how much it was, eh? And the whole community will really say, our son has made it in the city because you have a mobile phone. But something else began to happen. Because mobile phones became so ubiquitous, they could be found everywhere. And people, as time went by, people began buying them in droves. Then another problem began. Back then, I would write a letter. If I had the expletives, if I wanted to abuse you properly, I put it down in the paper, and then when you receive it, but this time around, we could not use that. I sit at the comfort of my house, having eaten some ugali, then I want to show you, you're joking around. Then I write it the way I want it and send you a text message. That became a problem. And so we are moving it around 1998. The government saw there's a problem. Then that's the time they introduced a bill, or an act of parliament called Kenya Information and Communication Act. But in 1998. So around that time, if you look at that provision, it's still there. That is the act that established the Communications Authority we now know. In addition, provision of that act had something, unlicensed use of telecommunication equipment. And as we're now approaching almost 2000, something was happening. The issue of bloggers, people learn, let me say, they learned outright, isn't it? So using such technologies, people would write, and then Facebook, and name it, also began coming around. So again, there was a problem. The law that was used, so many bloggers in jail. After some time, now we had the Facebook, we had the WhatsApps, and they continued using provision of that law. In 1998, moving to 2000, as we moved on, cyberspace was heating up, and then the court realized that this provision was being misused. And then they made it, actually, it's Justice Mumbi who made that provision unconstitutional. Say, wait a minute. Who licensed Facebook? Communications Authority? How do you charge somebody who has posted something in its social media handle to have misused the telecommunication equipment? So looking at that, hey, that was a problem. So there was a lacuna in the law. I'll try to be very simple. There was some loophole in the what? In the law. Moving forward, they went ahead and introduced an amendment, the so-called Kenya Information and Communication Amendment. So this one, right now, that amendment came around 2008. So that is the provision that now introduced the so-called, the terminologies here, unauthorized use of the telecommunication equipment. Actually, the word hacking and all that. So that is the law that came about. But then there was a problem with that law. Actually, you'd say, whoever gain unauthorized access into a control system commits an offense and is liable to be charged either 200,000 shillings or 5 years, I think 2 years in prison in jail, or both. Wait a minute. I gain unauthorized access into your database, or maybe banking system makes away with millions of shillings. How much do you charge me? 200,000 or both. So that also became a problem. We're around 2008. So beginning that time, down the memory lane, that is, now we are approaching 2010. What happened? I'm still under a historical part. I love history. I don't want to go overboard. So around 2008, we are coming 2010. Something happened. How many are called promulgation somebody here? Do you remember around 2010? Yes, that's the time now we had the Constitution coming in. And the big one, the promulgation of 2010 Constitution. Dr. Njoga asked a question. How many have read the Constitution? I wouldn't look at you, just carry your hand. How many have read the Constitution? Even that you've not read. But then in 2010, the Constitution came about. But something interesting about the Constitution in 2010, it has a very important provision. Date. Go to Article 260 of that Constitution. It's already called the interpretation article. It gives various interpretation in the article. And one of the provision is about a document. What is a document? This which you know, that you can write on, all that. But then introduce Part B under Article 260, if you look at it, you'll find something. This one you go find for yourself. Documents also include electronic files. It's the Constitution. So already the shift came about. Okay, later on something happens. We are approaching our elections. The elections, when they came in 2007, 2008, we all know what happened. We won't revisit that. But during that time, during the Maandamano, remember? During Maandamano, there was some journalist, there was some police officer who was captured in a camera, mercilessly hitting on a demonstrator back then, and this was captured in a camera. It found that clip, or that piece of evidence, found its way to court. This you can also find, just go Google Edward Kirui. It's there in the YouTube, you can check on that. That piece of evidence was taken to court. After 2 years, finally this gentleman was acquitted. He said, even though this gentleman is positively identified to have done all this, but then we find it a bit difficult to reconcile the findings of the ballistic expert that found that the serial number and the gun that fired this were mismatching. For that reason, and see in criminal case, it's beyond reasonable doubt. For that reason, this worked out. That one sent some shockwaves, and that now led to this famous amendments we now have currently. We have the Evidence Act. So in this country, we have a law called Evidence Act. Now, these are amendments, there are some amendments done in that Evidence Act, and one of them, it now introduced the so-called admissibility of electronic records. This you can find, and I'll show you the section in a short while. The same around that time, an amendment also came, courtesy of the so-called Kenya Information Communication Amendment Act of 2008, that now went ahead and amended the provisions of penal code. You see, by that time, it's a bit difficult. We all know what theft is. Theft simply means stealing somebody's property without his consent and without intention of ever returning it back. That is theft. But wait a minute. Here I have my beautiful music that I've composed. And then somebody comes, he tiptoes, he picks, gets a piece of that music in his flash disk, and he goes away. 2018. Time over. It is. Oh, all right. So around that time in 2000, it introduced an amendment in that act. Go to the next slide, please. It introduced an amendment into that act that states that information is capable of being stolen. It's in the penal code. Things that are capable of being stolen, even information capable of being what? Stolen. So we walk down the memory lane. The next slide, please. Now that my time is over. Are you adding me or I just cut it there? Oh, 2 minutes. The next slide. All right. So the current laws, that is what it is basically. You can find the Constitution, that is the article. Kenya Information Communication Amendment Act, that was what really is there. Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, this is, you know what is there, it was really contested. Then the new law in the House, which you have a Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes, Critical Information Infrastructure and Cybercrime Management Regulation, that's now anchoring the NC4, as we know them. Then we have the Evidence Act, the Penal Code, those provisions, of course even data protection, the National Cybersecurity Strategies, and National ICT Policy Guidelines. The next slide, please. Now, I use my last 2 minutes. The next slide. All right, please pay close attention to this. After all that is said, it all boils down to the evidence. That is the definition of evidence. Whether it's digital or analog, or from all computing devices, and it can be used in any forum. That's the definition. But most importantly, take care of the provision of the final slide, please. Take care of this provision. that whatever you're presenting before court of law must have come from a computer device that is working properly. And if you are to do a certificate, please show its condition. Can a third party doing a similar thing arrive at a similar conclusion that you are presenting in court of law? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agira. We appreciate you. Please, let's appreciate him one more time. Thank you for that. We just need, I know we have a few speakers and also we have a panel discussion, even in line with the program. To our speakers and our panelists, we're kindly requesting if we can be able just to take a break, and then we can be able to reconvene after lunch with the other part of the program. So we're still in check in terms of the presentations that need to be done in the panel discussion, but we're just kindly requesting if we can be able just to take a break, and then now we can be able to be back here at exactly 2:30, so that now we can be able to proceed with the rest of the program, right? So thank you very much. Please give a warm, nice high five to the person seated next to you and tell them that I am buying you lunch. All right, I am buying you lunch. Thank you very much. We're doing this because we do not want to lose the room in the presentations. Enjoy your lunch and see you at exactly 2:30.